Okay, imagine this. You're in a room, simple task. You see two cards, one have a line, the other has three lines. And you just have to say which of the three matches the first one. Super obvious, right? You see it instantly.
Right.
But then the person before you confidently points to the wrong line. And the next person, same wrong answer. And the next, what do? Do you trust what you're seeing, or do you go with the flow?
It sounds hypothetical, but that exact scene played out like hundreds of times back in the 1950s. It was Solomon Asch's Conformity studies, genuinely one of the most famous and maybe unsettled experiments in psychology.
And that's our deep dive today. Asch's Conformity studies.
Yeah.
Iconic. But what was going on then? What pushed Asch to tackle this whole conformity question so urgent?
Yeah, that's really the crucial starting point. So Asch was a Polish-American psychologist, and he was deeply troubled, really, by what he saw happening in Europe in the 30s and 40s. The rise of totalitarianism. He saw whole populations seemingly just adopting these dangerous ideologies. And he couldn't shake this question. Why? What makes people ditch their own judgment, their own eyes even, and follow a crowd, especially when the crowd is obviously like demonstrable?
And his approach was different, wasn't it?
Totally revolutionary, actually, because before him, researchers often studied conformity in situations where things were kind of ambiguous, no clear right answer. But Asch thought, no, let's make it crystal clear.
Let's see if they still conform.
Exactly. Would people still bend to the group even when the truth was staring them in?
That's the kicker, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, our mission today isn't just like a history recap. It's about digging into this really fundamental, sometimes uncomfortable truth about us, about human nature and how it shows up everywhere, even today. So, okay, the setup. You said it was simple, but that simplicity was key.
Deceptively simple. He brought in college students, told them it was just a vision test. Easy enough. But here's the twist, the clever part. Only one person in the room was a real person. The rest, 6 or 7 others, they were Confederate actors working for Asch, reading from a script.
So not really a vision test at all. It was all about social pressure. And how did he arrange things like the seating and the task itself to really ramp up that pressure?
Oh, it was meticulously planned. The real participant was always put near the end of the row, usually second to last.
Ah, so they heard most of the others.
Precisely. They had to listen to almost everyone else give their answer before it was their turn. And the task, identifying the matching line. Simple. First few rounds, everything went. Confederates gave the right answer.
Building trust, maybe.
Building a baseline, yeah. But then came the critical trial. In these specific rounds, all the Confederates, one after another, would confidently give the same wrong answer. And not just slightly wrong, like dramatically off wrong, like calling black white, pretty much. It created this intense conflict for the real participant. Do I trust my own eyes, or do I trust this unanimous group telling me something completely different? A real perfect storm of social pressure.
And the results just blew people away, right? First, though, just to be sure, the task was easy when people did it alone.
Oh yeah, the control group. Tested alone, participants got it right over 99% of the time. So 0 doubt about the correct answer. It was
But under group pressure.
That's where it gets wild. About 75%, 3/4 of participants conformed at least once. They gave an answer they knew perfectly well was wrong just to match the group.
75%.
And on average, across all the critical trials, people conformed about 1/3 of the time, roughly 37%.
Wow. Just pause on that. No real stakes, no punishment for being different. The answer is plain as day. And still, 3 out of 4 people caved at least once. That's humbling. Makes you wonder about yourself, doesn't it?
It really does. And beyond the numbers, watching the participants was fascinating. You could see the struggle. The videos show people squirming, looking totally confused, genuinely distressed.
Leaning in, maybe.
Trying to see better. Exactly. Like, am I seeing this right? They'd get nervous, glance around, fidget. It was like their brains preferred to doubt their own senses rather than stand out as the lone dissenter.
Afterwards, did they admit they knew?
Some did. But many actually tried to rationalize it in the interviews. They'd come up with explanations like, maybe the lighting was weird or my angle wasn't good, rather than just saying, yeah, the group was wrong and I went along.
So why, if the answer was clear, what was making them doubt themselves or just go along? What were the psychological forces?
Well, Asch and later researchers basically pinpointed 2 main reasons. The first is what psychologists call informational social.
Okay, informational, meaning?
Meaning sometimes you conform because you start to genuinely think the group knows better. You doubt your own information and assume they must have some insight you don't.
Like, maybe my eyes are deceiving me if everyone else sees it differently.
Exactly. There are 6 of them. One of them must be right. It's strongest when we're unsure. But Asch showed it can happen even when we are sure, if the social pressure is high enough.
Okay, so that's one reason genuinely thinking the group is right.
Yep.
But you said there were 2.
Right. The second force is normative social, and this one is maybe even more common in this kind of...
Normative, like Following the norm.
Precisely. This is conforming because you want to be liked or accepted, or you just desperately want to avoid the awkwardness of standing out. It's not about thinking the group is right. It's about wanting to fit in.
Ah, so these people knew the group was wrong.
Many explicitly said so afterwards. They knew the answer, but they just didn't want to be the odd one out. That quote you hear sometimes captures it. I knew they were wrong, but why should I make waves? The discomfort of social disapproval was stronger than their desire to be active.
That fear of making waves.
And you can trace this back, evolutionarily. We're social. For millennia, fitting in meant survival. Being ostracized could be a death sentence. So those deep-seated instincts are still there, screaming, conform, even when it's just about lines on a card.
That makes a scary amount of sense. So Asch didn't just do the one experiment. He played around with the setup, right? To see what made conformity stronger or weaker.
Yeah, the variations are just as insightful as the main study. One of the biggest findings came from tweaking union.
Meaning, what if not everyone gave the wrong answer?
Exactly. What if just one other person, another Confederate, actually broke ranks and gave the correct answer?
What happened?
Conformity plummeted. It dropped from that 37% average down to only about 5%.
Just one ally made that.
A massive difference. It wasn't just the number of people against you, it was the solid wall of agreement. Punch one hole in that wall, give the participant a single social supporter, and their willingness to state their own perception shot way up.
So the power is in the unanimous front. Okay, what else did he change? What about, say, having to say it out loud versus writing it down?
Great question. That was another key variation. Private versus public answer. When he let participants write their answers down private instead of saying loud.
Let me guess, conformity dropped.
Dropped by 2. It shows how much of conformity is driven by that fear of public judgment or embarrassment. When you take away the audience, people are much more likely to trust their own judgment.
Makes total sense. We're less worried about disagreeing if no one sees us do it.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the size of the group? Did more people always mean more pressure?
Interestingly, not really. He found that, yes, one Confederate giving the wrong answer had a small effect. 2 had more. But the peak pressure seemed to hit with about 3 Confederates.
Only 3.
Yeah. Adding a 4th, 5th, or 6th person didn't significantly increase conformity much beyond that point. So there seems to be a kind of critical mass. 3 people disagreeing, a lot of pressure. More than that doesn't add proportion.
Interesting. And what if the task wasn't so clear-cut? What if the lines were actually hard to tell apart?
Good point. Task difficulty. He did test that. When the lines were made much more similar, making the judgment genuinely ambiguous.
Conformity went up, I bet.
It did, yes. When people are uncertain, they rely more on others. That informational influence kicks in harder. But crucially, even when the task was difficult, conformity rates didn't reach the levels seen in the original, unambiguous experiment. The sheer wrongness of the group in the first setup was uniquely powerful.
This wasn't just an American thing, right? Later studies looked at culture.
Absolutely. Researchers replicated Asch's basic design in various countries, and they did find difference. Generally, collectivist cultures, places where group harmony is emphasized more, showed higher rates of conformity compared to individualists like the U.S.
But it still happened everywhere.
Oh, yes. Even in the most individualistic society, the tendency to conform under pressure was still very... It suggests it's a fundamental human tendency, even if culture can dial it up or down a bit.
Okay, but let's not forget the rebels. About a quarter of the people in the original studies never conformed. They stuck to their guns every single time. What set them apart?
Yeah, the independent minds. It's a great question. Based on interviews and observations, they seem to fall into a few camps. Some were just highly confident in their own perception and judgment. They trusted their eye, period.
Less swayed by others?
Right. Others seemed more generally comfortable with being different, less concerned about social approval. They just valued being accurate more than fitting in, at least in that specific context.
And even among those who did conform, you mentioned there was a difference. Some just said the wrong answer, others actually started to believe it.
Exactly. That's the distinction between expedient conformity, where you publicly comply but privately disagree, and true conformity, where the group pressure actually changes your pride. Start to think, maybe they are right. And the interviews really captured that struggle. People felt foolish or angry at themselves or tried hard to rationalize why they went along. That one quote really stays. I knew they were wrong, but I didn't want to be the only one who was different. It's hard to be the only.
Oh, yeah, that hits hard. It shows the deep discomfort of standing alone. And obviously, this isn't just about lines on cards in a lab 50 years ago.
Not at all. This is where Asch's work becomes so relevant, because you see these dynamics playing out everywhere. Think about work meetings.
Oh, yeah. The groupthink phenomena.
Right. You might think an idea is really flawed, but if the boss seems keen and everyone else is nodding along, how likely are you to be the lone voice saying, wait a minute? Asch helps explain why sometimes really bad decisions get unanimous approval. Fear of rocking the boat?
Or politics. The pressure to stick to the party line, even if you have private doubts about a policy. Saying something different could mean getting isolated by your own side.
Definitely. And in schools, think about kids in a classroom. Maybe they know the answer, but they don't raise their hand because they don't want to seem like a know-it-all, or they're afraid of being wrong in front of their peers.
That's normative pressure right there.
Absolutely. And in crisis situations, it connects to things like the bystander effect. Someone collapses and nobody immediately rushes to help. Others might hesitate thinking, well, if they're not reacting, maybe it's not. Or someone else. Conformity to inaction.
And now, fast forward to today, the digital age. Asch probably couldn't have imagined this, but the pressure seems amplified online, don't they?
Oh, massive. Social media is like Asch on steroids sometimes. Likes, shares, follower counts, these are all instant public measures of group approval or disapproval.
So you post something, and if it doesn't get likes, you feel that social pressure.
You do. And then you have algorithms creating echo chambers. The platforms learn what you and your network like, and they feed you more of the same. It reinforces the group consensus and makes dissenting views literally less visible.
Which leads to things like virtue signaling.
Yeah, where expressing certain opinions becomes a way to signal belonging to the right group, whether you deeply believe it or not. It's about performing conformity for social reward.
And the flip side, the fear of not conforming online is canceled.
Right. That's arguably the extreme end. The fear that saying the wrong thing, something that goes against the perceived group consensus, could lead to massive social backlash, losing your job, becoming a pariah. That pressure can lead to intense self-censorship, just like Asch's participants choosing the wrong line to avoid standing out.
It really mirrors that lab dynamic, but with potentially much higher stakes.
But there is a potential upside to the digital age, too, related to that ally effect Asch found.
How so?
Well, the internet also makes it easier to find your allies. Even if your view is unpopular in your immediate surroundings, you can go online and find a community of people who think like you.
Right, you're not alone anymore.
Exactly. Finding that like-minded group, even online, can break the feeling of unanimity and give you the support to resist pressure from a dominant opposing group. It can be incredibly empowering.
So it's complex. Conformity itself isn't just one thing. It has a dark side and maybe a bright side, too.
Definitely. The dark side is clear. When the group is wrong or pushing something harmful, conformity can lead to terrible outcomes, perpetuating errors, injustice, even atrocities. We mentioned Nazi Germany. Milgram's obedience studies, inspired partly by Asch, showed how easily people could be pressured into harming others under perceived authority. And
it shuts down critical thinking, moral courage.
Yeah. But the bright side is that society needs a degree of conformity. Imagine traffic if no one conformed to the rule, or cues, or basic politeness.
Chaos.
So total chaos. Conformity to positive social norms makes life predictable and cooperative. And it can spread good things too, like recycling becoming mainstream because it became a social norm, or workplaces adopting safety standards because conformity ensures everyone follows.
So the goal isn't to eliminate conformity.
No, not at all. The key insight from Asch is understanding just how powerful this force is, how much it operates beneath our conscious awareness. Once you understand it, you can be more mindful to try to harness it for good, like promoting pro-social behavior, while also building safeguards against its dangers.
Okay. So bringing it back to you, the listener, what are the practical takeaways from all this for navigating your own life? First, maybe question unanimity.
Yeah. If everyone around you seems to agree instantly, especially on something complex, pause. Ask question. Genuine consensus often involves discussion and disagreement along the way. Unanimity can be a red flag for conformity pressure.
Second, value dissent. Whether it's in your team at work or even in your family discussions, encourage people to speak up even if they disagree. Remember Asch's ally effect. Just one dissenting voice can liberate others to think more critically.
Third, and this is maybe the tough, understand your own susceptibility. It's easy to think, I would form like that. But the stats say most of us would, at least some. Acknowledging that you're not immune is the first step toward undue pressure.
4, try to create safe spaces for truth. Think about your own circles, work, friends, family. Can people disagree without maybe setting norms that explicitly reward honest feedback or using anonymous methods when appropriate can help?
And 5th, on the flip side, don't underestimate social proof when trying to encourage, showing that lots of people are doing this positive but be careful not to create false norms.
Now, we should also touch briefly on the ethics of Asch's study itself. He did deceive his participants.
Yes, that's crucial. They weren't told the real purpose, and the experience clearly caused some of them genuine psychological distress, anxiety.
And research standards have changed a lot since the 50s, partly because of studies like this in Milgram's. There's much more emphasis now on informed consent and minimizing harm.
Absolutely. It raises that ongoing question, doesn't it? How do we balance the quest for knowledge about ourselves, about human behavior, with the ethical treatment and dignity of the individuals participating in the research? It's not always an easy line to draw.
No, it isn't. So wrapping this up, Asch's simple lines experiment opened up these huge insights. We're profoundly social creatures, deeply influenced by others, with this powerful need to belong.
But that need comes with risk. The pressure to conform can lead us away from our own judgment, sometimes towards things that are wrong or even harmful.
But knowing this, understanding how conformity works, the unanimity effect, power of an ally, the difference between public and private, that knowledge is power, right? It gives you, the listener, a better chance to make conscious choice. When is it okay, even good, to go along with the group? And when is it vital to trust yourself and stand alone?
Exactly. And maybe the final thought is this. The next time you're in a situation, a meeting, a discussion online, whatever, and everyone seems to be on the same page, but something just feels off.
Remember those people in Asch's lab.
Remember them. Remember that standing apart is hard. It might be one of the hardest things we do as social beings, but it's not impossible.
In every single round of Asch's experiments, someone resisted the pressure.
Someone trusted their own eyes. And in this incredibly complex, interconnected world we live in now, having the courage to see clearly and maybe to be that lone voice speaking the truth as you see it, that's not just about personal integrity. It might just be a social necessity.